Awesome. We're live. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Creation Awaits podcast. This is the first one. I really have no idea how consistent this actually is going to be. But I really wanted to make a space for people with interesting stories, especially that sort of intersect with the kind of material that I have on my Substack, and just have them tell their stories of who they were before Jesus, who they were after Jesus, the struggles they've had, and how Jesus healed them. So today I brought Dohm from the. You've changed it. It used to be Porn Free Millennial.
I
Yeah.
still got Porn Free Millennial. I just started
Okay.
a new podcast. So
Okay,
we're
gotcha.
both doing a new podcast together. This is my second one I'm doing.
Sweet. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So Porn Free Millennial and then the Personal Freedom.
Yep. Personal Freedom Podcast. That's a new one. Just
Awesome.
went out last week, the first episode.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, to get us started, I'm going to talk a little bit. So Mac's story intersects with pornography addiction, which, as many of you guys know, that's part of my own story as well. And my testimony is out there, so I don't need to spend any time whatsoever on that because it's already out there a lot. So you can find my story out there on YouTube and various places. But that's part of Mac's story as well. So he's going to be telling us his story tonight. And so before that, I wanted to pray us in. And then I was going to give everyone some statistics about pornography use in the church. And then I'm going to start asking Mac a series of questions to get his testimony out. So to start, let's pray. So Heavenly Father, we come before you and your glorious throne. Father, you're sovereign and reign over all. And Father, we are asking for your guidance, for your Holy Spirit to be with us tonight, to get our flesh out of the way, and just allow the Spirit to breathe through us. And so anything we speak tonight, Father, let it be of you and for you and to glorify you. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen.
Awesome. So just really quickly, this is a recent study by the Barna Group, and also I'm intersecting some with Pure Desire Ministries, who also has done a recent study. And so by demographic, Christian men up to 75% acknowledge pornography at least occasionally. So that's a lot. That's
viewing, right?
What's that?
I think acknowledge viewing pornography, right?
Acknowledge, yes, at least occasionally. Yes.
Okay.
So at a regular interval, right? And so Christian women, approximately 40% admit to viewing pornography. That is really high, 40%. And then young adults among Christians, 18 to 24-year-olds, 76% are actively searching for explicit content on a regular basis. That's really high.
Yeah.
As it relates to church leadership, pastors, 2 in 3 U.S. pastors, which is 67%, report struggling with pornography at some point in their life, and 18% state that it is a current struggle they are in right now. Youth pastors, it's a little bit higher. The number goes up to 21% of youth pastors. Key behavioral insights. So comfort level, this is the most striking part of the recent study, is that the latest data shows that the majority of Christians who consume porn are comfortable with their usage, with many believing it's not even detrimental to a healthy sex life or their spiritual walk. The majority, which means more than 50%, say that it's fine. I'm using porn. There's nothing wrong with it, which is insane. And then as far as spiritual impact that we can glean from the study, among Christian students who use pornography, 43% of men and 20% of women report that it worsened their relationship with Christ. So we can see that it has an impact, and people know it has an impact to a degree. I would argue that the people that don't know it has an impact just haven't discovered what that impact is yet.
Yeah, like maybe they don't. That's an interesting. Sorry to interrupt, but that one really surprised me too, because like the statistic above, it's people are using it, but they don't really see it as a problem.
Yeah.
And they don't see it worsening their relationship with Christ, which I think once we'll talk about that tonight, I think, but
Okay, good.
once you cross the Rubicon, you're like, "Oh, yeah, that definitely
Mhm.
100% worsened my relationship with Christ." But yeah, sorry.
No, no problem at all. Thank you. And then isolation and secrecy. 84% of practicing Christians who view porn have no one who's helping them to avoid it.
Mhm.
84% have absolutely no one who's helping them to avoid it, and nearly half state that no one knows about their usage. So half the people 80, half of them state that nobody even knows that they're using porn. So they're keeping it a secret, which doesn't surprise me at all because of the shame involved in using pornography.
Sure.
And then finally, the last statistic is lack of church programs. So, despite 75% of pastors stating that they individually counsel people struggling with porn, only 10% of churches report having a specific support or recovery program in place to help mentors. And
Mm.
so, what these statistics show is there is a massive problem in the church, and the church is doing almost nothing about it. So, anyway, so that's what I wanted to show the problem of pornography. And then I brought Mac here to show you an example of a person who struggled with this very thing and his story of overcoming pornography use. And hopefully, I'm pretty sure out of this, we're going to hear about his relationship with Jesus and how Jesus is the healer. So, without further ado, Mac, thank you again for doing this, man. This is not an easy thing to do.
Sure.
To bare your soul and all of your shameful activities to the world. So I commend you for that, man. So let's talk about Mac. Who were you before the addiction?
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me on, man, and James and I have had some conversations on my podcast, so it's neat to be on yours. Ah, gosh, who was I before it? I mean, I was so young, right? 10 years old was when I was first exposed to porn. Uh, I I really wouldn't say that it became really an addiction. It's kinda hard to say thinking back about memories, but I think it was really when I started going to, like, middle school and high school. I think that's when I mean, if you asked me at the time, I wouldn't have said I was addicted, but I think looking back, it was just so compulsive. I mean, gosh, it was just about every day I felt like just remembering it, was just searching for it, finding it, masturbating, all that stuff, and just seemed like I was pretty out of control with it. But, I mean, I think before porn, right? Before it became addiction, before it was exposed, I do picture this, and remember some things about it, of just a childhood that just seems so innocent,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's one thing that it angers me about porn and how it interacts with people, because it normally finds people at a young age, at that innocence, and you can't still feel innocent, I think, after looking at porn, unfortunately. It's just, visceral, and it's something that I think for young boys, especially, like myself, it just really pulled me in, where I wanted to see more of it, I wanted to find more of it. So I think, when I think about that question,
Mhm.
who I was, I think I was more, felt like one person, right? Like I felt whole, to where, "Hey, this
Mm.
is Mac." And then when that happened, then it's like, "Hey, this is Mac outward that people interact with. This is Mac in the shadows, where I'm up to some things, right? And, things that I wanna hide, things that I don't wanna tell the truth about." So I think that's what developed, I think, like a double life, double personality, in a way of, "Hey, this is who I'm presenting, and then this is what I'm doing in the background." And then, of course, that brought a lot of shame in my life. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school, kindergarten through 7th grade. Then I went to public school, 8th grade, basically through high school, and then went to a state college, in Colorado. So, I mean, really growing up Catholic, I just remembered in 2nd grade, this is something that came up just recently. Gosh, it was like 2 maybe years ago. Might have been on one of our podcasts, actually.
Mhm.
I think I told you about this last time we talked, but yeah, it was like 2nd grade. I just felt like, I think my teacher was talking about porn being a cardinal sin, and I just felt like the way it was being talked about, I just felt so much shame and, like, guilt, and just felt like I was going to hell,
Mm.
in, like, 2nd grade. Just really internalized it.
Yeah.
So, I think
Can
that young
can I
Matt didn't have that shame, and then I
Yeah.
was carrying that shame around
Sure.
after.
So going into the Catholic thing, because I was raised Catholic too,
Yeah.
and so I really, as a Catholic boy, I had no idea what grace was. Um,
Mm.
if the teachers and the priests were talking about grace, I wasn't hearing it for some reason. I saw it as, there's people who do good things and they go to heaven, and there's people that do bad things and they go to hell. And so if you
Right.
do bad things, you go to hell. Is that sort of the same framework that you kind of picked up from your childhood? And
Yeah.
to sort of um, qualify that too, where were your parents and all that? Like, what were they trying to tell you? Religious.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll start off by saying I love my parents, they're phenomenal.
Yep. Of
Disclaimer, they're actually celebrating 40 years, in a month of being married, which is
That's
so
amazing.
cool, so
That's
I'm really
amazing.
proud of them. But I would say, they were pretty much I was the kid. I mean, I was born in '91, so I still remember growing up in a house without the internet. I think the dial-up internet came around the time I started to become addicted, which is kind of, hey, let's put 2 and 2 together there, right?
Mhm.
But I would say with my parents, right, they're pretty hands off. I'd say spiritually, we go to church and things like that, but I didn't really get I wouldn't say I got like a ton of spiritual direction,
Mhm.
biblically at all from my parents.
Right.
I got a lot of great attributes and hey, this is how you treat people. This is how you conduct yourself. I
Mhm.
think that I got a lot of good advice and leadership from both my parents on that front, but I wouldn't say it was really that biblically grounded. I
Mhm.
think a lot of that just came from school, and I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. I can relate to where it just felt like, "Hey, Christ died on the cross," but, like, what did it actually mean? And it never really hit me as a kid that he paid our debt and that all we gotta do, right? We gotta believe in him, and that's not easy. Uh, you know, it's not easy to do that. I think being a Christian is not an easy thing, but I think that was kinda lost just going through school like that like you're saying, I think that hits it pretty hard on the head right there. The nail on the head is I didn't really feel like I could be forgiven for this stuff, and I think that's what a lot of people say in addiction, right? I think especially with porn addiction, I hear it all the time, and like I said, I'm doing a podcast for 3 years now called Porn Free Millennial and a publication, so I've talked to tons of people about it, written about it, all that good stuff, and that's a constant thing that I think people say is like, "I don't feel like I can be forgiven for this, all the things I've seen and done," and Christ, died on the cross for that.
Yeah.
That's just lost. I think it got lost in my sin, right? And I was just so young that it just kind of felt like, hey, when I go into confession, that's like one thing I'll leave off the table. That's like one thing, because it just I think when porn enters your life that early, you learn and you don't have that supervision as much. Like I know like my dad, his father passed away when his father was like 38, I think, of brain cancer. Like really just awful. So when he was going into high school, that's when his dad died. And then his mom raised 4 boys. So I think part of not having that sex talk or the porn talk might have been because my dad didn't really grow up with a dad. His dad passed away pretty when he was young. So I think about that sometimes is my dad always taught me how to, I'd say appreciate beauty and treat women with respect. I always got that from him. Like that was great. I think my dad taught me how to be a gentleman with women, but I didn't really get that kind of I think approach with the online stuff. Like I got caught a few times, all
Mm.
that, but it was never really like, hey, son, biblically, this is why this is not good for you, and this is what God
Mm.
wants for you. And
What did
I
what did he do when you got caught? Like, how did he respond? Did he ground you or?
Probably. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think one
Mm.
time he got mad because he's like, "These aren't even, like, real boobs." I think that I printed out some, like I, like, left like, I printed out, like, a nude photo of a woman, and I think she had, like, fake boobs, and I left it on
Right,
the printer,
right.
and my dad was just like, like, "What the heck?" So I think it was just more of like, "What are you doing? Like, go date some girls or something,"
Mhm.
kinda thing, but it wasn't exactly like, "Hey." And I think part of it is I just look at that older generation, right? And I just think that a lot of them just had no clue what was going on, because that's, like, really when the internet started to come along was around the
Mhm.
time, early 2000s.
Mhm.
And then around the time of high school, I graduated in 2009. That was around the time the iPhone came out, social media started to come out, like, right around high school for me.
Mhm.
So I think, like, it was just a prime time for me just to get really addicted to porn because internet started high-speed internet, you got your social media, and now you can, like, look at porn on your phone or your
Right.
laptop. So I
Mhm.
just remember, leaving high school, going into college, I mean, it was just so constant for me. And I remember I had this old Wheaties box that I actually put some, like, porn in, and I remember one time I burned it, like, I put it in the fire. Like, I really felt
Okay.
bad about it.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
I felt internally like I knew it was wrong.
Mm.
So I didn't really need my parents to tell me, like, I knew it was wrong.
Sure.
I just didn't really know, like, how to do it because, like you
Right.
were talking about, I think in the statistics, a lot of people don't wanna talk about it, you
It's
know?
shameful. Yeah.
Well, part of it is it a problem? And I think most of us know, yeah, it is, but it's hard to, like, put a like, well, what kind of is it a problem with me? Like, am I the problem?
Mm.
Or is it a problem with and I found out a lot with porn was, am I trying to fill some emotional need, that
Mhm.
kinda thing? Am I looking for a solution where the solution really is Christ, but am I filling that with something else that's highly addictive?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so I had a lot of different moments, right, where I think I was just trying to quit, but I never really included anyone in that. I mean, I'm just thinking through just past years, right? When I
Yeah.
was in grade school, middle school, high school, and then college. I mean, I was basically doing it on my own, and I
Yeah.
was not doing a good job of it. I think I'd date a girl or something, and maybe I'd stop looking at it for a little bit, but
Mhm.
it always just creep its way in. It always would creep its way in because I didn't really fully get to like the root cause of like why I was going to it,
Mhm.
and I didn't loop in Christ at all. I
Right.
actually distanced myself from Christ. So then I
Mm.
just felt pretty much alone on it. And then, like a lot of people are like, yeah, this is what I do all the time. Like everybody, like friends and all that stuff. Like people just didn't really see a big deal with it.
Right. This is everybody does this. This isn't a problem.
Right, right, right. And
Mhm.
so, I think looking back on my life and just having a different lens on it now, it was very clear that it's a deeply rooted addiction. Um, and we'll talk about it later, but yeah, it
Mm.
definitely has some big repercussions in my life.
Yeah, so transitioning there, so, you're raised Catholic, nobody was really telling you about forgiveness of Christ or grace, and, you kinda felt like you were on your own. So, when was it that this addiction, because it seems like you're saying that, the internet and then the phone, the new iPhones and stuff were coming out. You had all this access. Was that around the time that this became more of, like, a real problem for you, like, around that time?
Well, I mean, at the time, I mean, it didn't really become a problem with me until I got married. Well, it was always a problem, but
Right.
I mean, it
It, like, went into hyperspace when you
well,
got married?
that's when there was actual, like, repercussions, right?
Okay,
Because I
gotcha.
think the first girl that I ever really, like, dated seriously was in college. And yeah, that was the first person I lost, like, my virginity to. It was a very, I'd say, more sexual relationship than anything.
Yeah.
And I think I remember kinda, like, starting to watch, like, porn again, time and time to that, and I don't think she really cared too much about it kinda thing.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it was kinda funny, like, it's not funny, but when I think about it, it's like before every breakup I had, porn was involved. Like, I remember that with my first high school, my first crush. I
Okay.
wrote an article about that on Substack called "Girl Down the Street." I
Mhm.
mean, I was addicted to porn before I even had my first kiss with a girl in 8th grade.
Wow.
I
Wow.
mean, and it's just when you look at the statistics, right? I mean, I think people are introduced to porn before they even have their first kiss,
Yeah.
which I mean, that you could
Which
talk
is
about that
child
one for
child
a while.
abuse, by the way. That's
Yeah,
that's child abuse. Yeah.
yeah,
Sexual
and
work
it's
with a
grooming
child.
and all that stuff, right? And it
Mhm.
just happens at such a mass scale, and it's so normalized.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, I think the question though, like I didn't really fully realize the repercussions of it, I think, until I got married. I think, I was married for 5 years. I went through a divorce a little over 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and I mean, it was probably about 6 to 8 months into our marriage was when I got caught. Um, And yeah, it really all came to a head. Like it's like if you were using a credit card and you just forgot, you chose just to forget about the card and the balance. Like you're like, hey, I know that that card's out there and that I got to pay it someday, and the balance is just accruing. There's interest. Like there's this heaping debt that's there, and I think I've always known that in my life, right?
Mhm.
But I just it's hard when you're younger, right? And you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna get married." That's another myth, right? You're like, "Hey, I'm gonna get married. This is gonna solve everything." And I think, and yeah, and I was like sober for, I think it was about 6 to 8 months, maybe a year, kind of in
Mhm.
that engagement period. Like I was just so fired up and felt great. I was reconnecting with my faith because my ex got me back into a church, which was great, and we were doing everything pretty good most part. And yeah, I think it was just like once the honeymoon thing kind of, I think it's typically like 6 to 8 months, maybe a year when you're married, and then you start having tougher conversations or things get stressful or whatever, right? It's as anyone that's been married knows, it's not easy. But there is like that honeymoon period, I think, right? You get married, you're young. I think I was, let's see, 27, I think, when I got married, and she was
Mhm.
24. So we were young, and yeah, I think I just started to get back into bad habits. I think when you've been addicted to something for close to 20 years, it's just wired in your brain to where you'll get naturally kind of pulled to something if you're feeling a certain way. And I think for me, is if I was feeling like undervalued, uh, if somebody wasn't paying attention to me, I think a lot of it, like identity based, just kind of I've me feeling like you're not appreciating me. I think words of affirmation are pretty big for me as like a love
Mhm.
language.
Yeah.
And I think that was happening at the time. And, I just went to my natural instinct, not natural, but you know what I mean.
Oh, your fleshly predilection.
Yeah, my,
It
my,
is
yeah,
it's natural to your flesh. Yes,
that's a good
100%.
way to say it.
Yeah.
Uh, but just going there, right? And going to this programmed, habit is what I went to, and I got caught. And I think that was like really the first like rock bottom moment to where,
Yeah, do you mind if we slow down a little bit and talk about this part? Because I think this is really important, right? Because a lot of people, especially single people, they think that as soon as they get married, this porn problem is gonna go away. Right? And I think that you're hitting on a really, really important point that that is not true. In fact, a lot of times what happens is the porn problem gets so much worse when you get married, especially if there are marital and there will be marital issues, right? Like you were saying, everyone has a love language, and if your love language isn't being spoken to, you can start having these feelings and you start reacting in ways that are not healthy and not Christ-like, and then before you know it, you're coping with something like pornography, right? And so, talk about that, man. Talk about how, from your perspective, how marriage didn't solve the problem; it just complicated it, right?
Yeah, because I think before, right, and this is maybe another light to touch on, is that you feel like you're not hurting anybody. Like it's just something that it's my thing. It's not
That's correct.
affecting any, and because if you don't even think it's affecting you negatively, then why would you think it's going to affect somebody else negatively, right?
Right.
And I think when you get married, right, you're one under God. And I remember talking with counselor Jeannie Hoskin. She's on Substack too. She's great. We've done some podcasts together. She's a biblical counselor as well. But we're talking about relationships, and basically, like it's kind of like putting like a pink piece of paper and a blue piece of paper together and gluing them together. I mean, when you pull it, like it's gonna when it rips, like there's gonna be pieces of you embedded with the other person because you're one under Christ.
Right.
And,
Mm.
like biblically, like, how it's taught with sexual morality is like it's a sin against like yourself. But when you're married, I mean, that's a sin against your spouse as well, your
Because
wife.
you're one flesh. That's right.
You're one flesh, right? And so I think that's what complicates it, right? Is when you take that vow, like I did,
Mhm.
you're taking that vow to uphold your wife, like to treat her like Christ treats the church, your bride. I get goosebumps thinking about it because I still remember the wedding day, and I still remember doing my vows, and I still remember how excited I was and joyful I was.
Mhm.
And then how just these dormant habits started to come back. And I think with addiction, what happens too is you kind of have blinders where you're like, let me just get this fixed.
Mm,
Like, like I know it's gonna be rough. And well, at the time, I don't even know if I was really thinking about that. I was like, I just want to get my fix.
sure.
Because I think this was really the first relationship, the first person I was with that actually had a problem with porn.
Okay. Yeah.
And in all like the right biblical ways, biblical woman, all that. The most respect for her. I won't talk about her a lot to respect her,
Of course.
but really respect and love her. But yeah, she was not happy with it because
Okay.
it's like, hey, you're a man of God. What is this? I'm your
Yeah.
wife.
So, two things. Like you said that she reintroduced you to the Lord and started going to church with her, right?
Hmm.
So, was she evangelical and you started going to an evangelical church or Protestant church
Yeah,
or
I guess you could maybe consider Protestant, non-denominational Flatirons Church.
awesome, cool. And
Um,
then so you're starting to did you get baptized there or
no, I didn't get baptized there. I actually took myself to baptism 2 years ago at Flatirons.
awesome.
And yeah, that was just went there on Easter. Wasn't planning on it.
So this was a year after your divorce.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean,
Okay,
but we'll get to that. That's really when I
sure.
think things really have started to click in my life with Christ.
Yeah. Okay,
But
so
no, that's
during
fine.
that time, like
Yeah.
you're at least probably trying to put on the persona of a godly man, right? Even if you kind of aren't, right? And so what was like the discovery like where she found out like that you were using porn? What was that? What was that
It was
scenario?
just hard, man. It was just so visceral the way I remember it. And I mean, I'm just ashamed of how I acted. But when I look back at it, I think I was just so blind to porn being a problem. Like I think it's like I almost like buried it so deep. And it's like I still know I buried the body, but I kind of like, hey, it's so deep, it's out of the way.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think about that Edgar Allan Poe story where there's that
The telltale heart.
yeah, just it's like that pulsating feeling like that you're just like, like that's how I feel like with porn. When you're with somebody too, and you just know that you're gonna break their heart at some point. And I've realized it's better to be honest about it up front than to get caught and then lie about it. Because really, if I could write a guide on how not to do it, that this is
You
the
did it
guide. Because I
because you
got
did it the
caught.
exact wrong way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got
Mhm.
caught. I was doing all the. I mean, I've written articles. I've talked about all these different things you do, like minimization. You minimize it, you justify it, you get defensive, you gaslight. I mean, I don't even know what lighting meant
Mhm.
until my ex told me what it meant. And I
Wow.
was like, wow, yeah, like, wow, I was like, hey, this is your problem for finding out that I'm looking at porn, which is awful.
Mhm.
But really, I think I just handle things really poorly.
Yeah.
But I think she gave me grace and just said, hey, let's just get a little distance from this. Like, and it's actually pretty cool. Like, where I'm podcasting right now is about 20 minutes from my grandparents' cabin that they built, and that's where I went. That's when recovery started for me. Was that weekend? It was right around my birthday, which I turned 35. That was on Sunday.
Mhm.
So it's kind of interesting to think about this because I think that was 8 years ago now, like around my birthday time.
Mm.
And I'm in the same place generally talking now than I did like 8 years ago, which is kind of nuts.
Mhm.
But anyways, my grandparents have a cabin that they built like in the 80s, and then my uncles own it now. But I just told her like, "Hey, let's get some distance." We both agreed upon it, and I just took my dog Bo with me. We went up to the cabin. I fly fished a ton. I listened to porn free radio, which is the first porn free anything I've ever listened to. I interviewed Matt Dobschutz. He's the host on my episode 50. Was cool talking to Matt because he's really been like just a great man to lead. He's also a Christian as well. But he started, I think he's 15 years sober, and he's been podcasting for a while, like 10 years.
Awesome.
So that's kind of where it all started was had this rock bottom moment where, I mean, it just changed things, right? It changed intimacy, it changed our trust. Because everything, I mean, if I look before that moment, we had everything laid out. Like seriously. It was just so promising. Everything, like by the book, textbook, like this is gonna be a great marriage.
Mm.
And then this happened, right? And that's why I'm so passionate talking about this, because
Yeah.
it's not like my relationship with porn is really that much different than probably most people, I would assume. Like I never paid for like OnlyFans or anything like that. I've never been to a strip club in my life. I just went there when I felt lonely and when I felt like no one loved me. And I was listening to these lies about myself. And
Mhm.
I was medicating that and numbing things and all that terrible, finding this terrible antidote that's not really an antidote at all. It's poison.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just hits you. But yeah, hit that rock bottom moment, went to the cabin. I started listening to this podcast. So when I was fly fishing, I just downloaded all these podcasts because I'm up in the mountains of Colorado and I'm just fly fishing. I think I read Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willink. And then I just started a journal. It was like the first time I like journaled in like forever, right? So I
Mhm.
started to kind of do stuff a little bit differently. And then I joined a men's group that I'm still a part of.
Nice.
That's been for about 8 years now. Same group of guys. Pretty much, we got a core group of guys, which is just so cool. And just started to take things more seriously. I joined a group. I actually started working with Matt, and that's really when recovery started for me.
Mhm.
And that's, I would say, I know I said like the last few years it kind of clicked where I got baptized again. But
Mhm.
I'd say that period of time, I definitely started to just think about things a lot more seriously.
Yeah.
The hard part about that, though, is that there's damage done, and, that still took a lot of time, I think, for me to really figure out how do I interact with this? Because I think sometimes I kinda felt like I'd be giving ground up, that,
Mm.
it's just it was just a tough time, right? Because I think one person gets hurt, they're gonna start acting a little bit differently, and are they gonna always make the right decisions? Probably not, right? We're all human, and then me, I'm the perpetrator, which I never really looked at myself as a perpetrator before. I
Mhm.
never looked at somebody myself as somebody that would lie because I didn't. But when it came to porn, I did, right? So for me, it was like this big, just who am I?
Mm.
And then I think being in a marriage is like, what is this marriage? Like, what's important? So it really just that drastically changed my life.
Yeah, so you're talking about identity. We talk about that quite a lot on Creation Awaits. That's sort of the core thread that runs through everything that I write. And so part of identity is understanding who you are in Christ, right? And so the other aspect of it is understanding that Christ names you, he tells you who you are. Your understanding of him comes from him, not the world, right? And or the flesh or the devil. And
Mhm.
so when we get our understanding from the world, from our flesh, or from the devil, that's when things start going off the rail because it's not according to God's design for how he designed us, right? And so the world, the flesh, and the devil, man, the lies that you were believing, you mentioned those lies that were sort of fueling this behavior. What are those? And what were they like?
Oh gosh. I think one lie is right is that you can't be forgiven.
Okay.
I think we talked about this too when we had our podcast, but
Hmm.
I think the devil is like it feels like your best friend all the way up to the sin.
Oh yes,
Then
the 1-2 punch, right? Yeah.
yeah, the 1-2 punch. Like the devil's like, "Hey, like you deserve this. You should be able to do whatever you want. If you're feeling like it today, go look at porn." And then the minute it happens, the devil's like, "Oh, wow, why'd you do that?" You know?
Hmm.
And hey, God's not gonna forgive you for that. And then you start isolating yourself
Hmm.
because you feel ashamed, right? You feel guilty. You feel like, wow, like Christ died on the cross for me, and this is what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
think that is a big part of the Catholic guilt that I still probably have is just like, Christ was the man of all men. And who am I? I'm just here with my pants, on my ankles doing this in a locked bedroom. Like it makes you kind of feel pathetic, right? But I think the lies like, hey, you're pathetic. Uh, hey, you have no self control. I think a big one is that you're unlovable, or if people found out, what you were doing, they wouldn't love you anymore, or
Mm.
they wouldn't respect you anymore.
That's an interesting one because it takes the porn to get to that lie.
Yeah, for sure.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. You are
Interesting.
pathetic. That sounds like so by the way, isn't
Yeah.
it interesting when you hear this voice, you hear you're not hearing I am pathetic, you're hearing you are pathetic, right? Which
Mm,
is a key indicator that this is not coming from inside you. This is a
right.
voice coming from the outside saying you are pathetic, Mac. And
Yeah,
this is the
that's a
enemy.
great way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like ultimately, I'm like, I'm not pathetic, but then I keep doing these things that were pathetic, or at least the lie was just like, "Hey, you are pathetic,"
Right. So it's a
versus,
feedback loop.
"Hey, what you're doing is pathetic." Those are different things. I think that's the difference between shame and guilt too, right? I think
Right.
shame is like, you are the problem, and then
Mhm.
guilt's like, "Hey, that is a problem, like, that something that you just did. You should feel bad about it,
Right.
and then do better." Like, ask for forgiveness, repent.
Right.
Uh,
So guilt, it's you did something wrong. Shame is there's something wrong with you.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you put
Mhm.
it that's a good way of putting it, and, yeah, so, there's a ton of lies. I mean, I think one of them is just that, yeah, they don't have any value. I think that was always a big one that came up with me, was
Mhm.
just I think having, like, that imposter syndrome, that kinda thing, not feeling like I belong. Things that I think really can fuel isolation
Mhm.
were a lot of the lies that I'd have. And I think isolation, I mean, you can still be isolated in a marriage,
You
right?
can.
And
Absolutely.
that's I think the leading cause. I read this really good book called The 8 Dates. I think it's John Gottman, I think, which he has like a PhD in this stuff. But he was saying
Mhm.
like the number one leading indicator or the leading factor in a divorce is living parallel lives,
Yeah,
and that's being isolated, I think.
it is.
So
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of lies, man. And I think a lie too, like what we just talked about as well, but like kind of like the lie is, hey, you don't have to talk about this with anybody, or hey, no one would understand. I think that's a big one too, is that you're alone. Like no one would understand if you talked about this.
Mhm.
Whereas I would have to argue porn might be like the most relatable
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
issue that people face, right?
Sure.
Like when you look at the statistics.
Yeah. Or if you just look at what when you turn on the TV for 5 seconds, it's basically pornography coming through the screen, you know?
I know
So
you
it's
watch like a
absolutely
chocolate
relatable.
commercial, and it's like, are you trying to seduce me or are you
Yeah.
trying to sell me chocolate or both? Probably
It's
both.
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's really interesting, because what we're talking about here, by the way, is spiritual warfare. Okay.
Mm.
So if you look at, for instance, like Jesus in the wilderness, I'm going to get preachy for about 2 minutes. I
Do it.
promise I'll cut it off in 2 minutes. So Jesus in the wilderness, Jesus, the first thing when he goes into the wilderness, right? The first thing that the devil says is, if you are the son of God, right? So
Mm.
he's attacking his identity, right? And then he has these three things he wants Jesus to do to prove that he is the son of God. And so, and each one of these you can make a parallel to the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life, which the Bible
Right.
talks about, right? And so the devil is trying to get him to sin. And the interesting thing is what Jesus uses to counter the lies that the enemy is bringing against him is the truth of the word of God. And so
Mhm.
each time Jesus answers with, it is written, you shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God, right? And so this is spiritual warfare, and Jesus taught us in the wilderness what spiritual warfare is. And so for these lies for you, Mac, I would like to know, like, have you equated these lies to scripture? Have you found, like, for instance, for I'm pathetic, have you found any scripture that is the antithesis to that lie that you can use against the enemy when he comes against you?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, do I have one off the top of my head, like a verse? I'm not sure, but I think, I don't know, I just anytime I'm reading the Gospels, man, and you read the words that Christ says,
Yeah.
they just move me so much on how he's the good shepherd
Yeah.
and how, I want to know his name,
Hmm.
when he speaks to come to him. And
Hmm.
it's taken a lot of time, a lot of work to really get there to where I'm listening for Christ's voice, and I'm actively doing that every day and talking about it, with my close people in my life.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think all that God did for the Israelites, through, Abraham initially. I mean, just all of it. I think the whole story of the Bible is
Yeah.
is showing how much we are loved,
Yeah.
much that the Lord, how much good things He wants for us. And really, I think you said it great, and I keep referring to our last podcast. Everyone should go listen to it. It was
Yeah.
great.
Sure. It
There's a
was
lot
great.
of preaching there, good preaching.
Yep.
But I think something you said about the Bible, which was really cool, was I think He desperately wants us to be, or what's the word?
Dependent.
Dependent. That's the word I was going for, like to be dependent on Him.
Yeah.
And to have that dependence, it is a letting go of the world and of the flesh, the ego. It's like a surrender. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of serenity in that. So I don't know. I think with the lies, ultimately for me, it's just acknowledging what the Bible means. And like you
Yeah.
said, I think that really struck me was just to be dependent on Him. That's something that my recovery coach said. I do a weekly thing with some guys that we're actually going to meet in August for the second year in a row, which is cool in person. But he's a pastor up in Chilliwack, Canada. His name's Vern Tomke. He does the Finding Traction podcast.
Hmm.
So I consider him a friend, a mentor, a coach, all of that. But he was saying that sometimes he'll ask new guys in the congregation that might want to get coffee with him. He's like, what's your daily dependence on God look like? Like, what are you praying for? And if they don't really have an answer for that, he's going to be like, okay, well, let's talk more, because that should be something in you to where you're praying to God and being like, God, I need you today. Like, I need you. And sorry, I don't know if I'm going a little off topic of your
No, that's
question,
great. That's
but I
great.
think, but I think that for me, it erases the lies. And ultimately, I mean, what erases the lies is that Christ died on the cross. He died on the cross for us. He went through the most horrific death for us. For to wipe the slate clean, to wipe the cloth clean, right?
Yeah, I like what C.S. Lewis says about it. He's famous for saying, if you were the only person in the world, Jesus still would have died for you.
That's a great
And
way to say it.
it personalizes it because he did die for every single one of us. And that is an act of love, right? And so when you're feeling alone, right, Jesus counters with, I am with you always, even until the end of the age. I will never leave or forsake you. If you're feeling pathetic, think he died for you, right? Before the foundation of the world, he chose you in Christ Jesus. That's Ephesians 2:15, which is one of my favorite. I'm sorry, Ephesians 2:8 through 10 is he chose us in Christ Jesus before the foundation of the world, so that we can do good works, right? And so, yeah, the Bible is replete with all these promises of God. And so, one of the things that I teach in my course is to find them, to find the ones that are the antithesis to the lies that you have been believing, because these truths set you free. When you know the truth sets you free, right? And so what I would suspect is through your general understanding of what Christ did for you, it has
Right.
moved you towards freedom more because of your understanding that you are loved, you are accepted, he did die for you, right? And so yeah, absolutely. That's awesome, man. So I want to talk a little bit more. So like the divorce, man. Like if you don't
Yeah.
mind. Like so what was it? What was the tie-in with pornography to the divorce specifically?
Yeah. Again, without getting too personal about it with
Yeah.
talking about her, but I just think looking back, I think it was just like kind of like a slow burn
Mhm.
of, hey, I mean, I had good streaks of sobriety. Like I think one time was almost 2 years, where things were actually getting better. There were points where things would get better. I'd have a relapse. Uh, they were becoming a lot less frequent. I would say that the start of the marriage really set it up kind of in a poor way to where I handled it so poorly to start.
Yeah.
I think it left some pretty deep wounds. So
Mhm.
basically, anytime there was a relapse, it would like rip open that wound again. And then
Mhm.
anytime I lied about it, would rip open that wound even more. And there were some times where I'd have a relapse and I'd actually would talked to her about it, and that went, better.
Yes.
Yeah, that went better. But
Do you know
with
why?
that, because I was being honest.
Right. And because women, right, they expect you to fail. Your
Right.
wives, they expect that you're going to fail, and they can stand the failure. What they can't stand is the dishonesty, because women, above all, they need safety and trust. If they lose their trust in you, there's it takes you have to move a mountain to earn their trust back, especially if you keep wounding them over and over and with lies, right? So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way of putting it, man. I think the trust was really affected off the bat with that initial, I think, being found out with that and everything and not handling it well. So, like you were saying, it felt like I was moving a mountain a lot of the times in my marriage.
Mhm.
And at times it felt like I actually moved it a little bit, and you could actually tell.
Right.
I'd say probably like the straw that broke the camel's back was I had this really bad relapse. It was after like 2 years of sobriety.
Mhm.
There's really just something on TV. I'm not gonna say what it was, but it was something kind of like, okay. Like today, if it came on, I would just change the channel.
Right.
But I think she was asleep or something, and it came on, and it just
Mhm.
triggered something in me. And at the time, we moved to a new home, bought our first house. It's a little bit, it was further away from my church, my support group. So when I
Mhm.
look back at it, I'm like, oh, okay, like you stopped going to the church you were going to. You stopped going to Bible study because it was about a 3-hour round trip. You didn't quite find your new church yet because you guys are moving into your new house and kind of had that honeymoon stage, I think, of buying a new house together and all that, which was really, it was cool. As a millennial, buying a house was a pretty big deal. So that was great. But then I think those bad habits started to creep back in, like I was talking about, to where, hey, I had a great support system and it was really working for me. That's what I've learned about myself is like I gotta stay connected. Like
Mhm.
if I'm not connected, I'm putting myself at risk. Excuse me. So, anyways, I had that relapse and I literally started to shake. Like I felt like I was having a convulsion. Like
Oh
I
wow.
just
Like
I like
immediately after the relapse?
yeah,
Oh
yeah, just
wow.
my body was all just haywire and I just started to cry and just was like, "What the heck did I just do?" Like I just felt like, "Holy crap!" Like I just really royally like f things up, kind of thing. Um, with that being said, I think what happened was, I think she ended up getting COVID, and then I used that as an excuse to like not talk about it because I was just like, she's going through crap. A biblical storm happened. Our neighbor's tree broke in half and nearly hit her house. It's a
Wow.
huge windstorm. Like we had to replace a ton of fence line. So kind of like all this stuff happened like within I think it was that night. That's when the windstorm happened. And I
Mhm.
think maybe at the time she was already sick. I'm trying to remember all that.
Yeah.
But all that being said is like I had all these excuses.
Yeah.
And I literally told myself, I'm like, I'm gonna take this to my grave.
Yep.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna tell her. I'm never gonna do it again. And like I just said, like, God, like, I'll accept the punishment. Where the whole time it's like, dude, just repent. Holy crap. Yeah, I
Right.
look back, I'm like screaming. It's like that interstellar scene where he's like yelling out of his self. Like, back, back. I had
Right.
a bookshelf. Maybe I could have hit a book or something, but
Mm.
this is me now. But yeah, I just didn't. I just felt so much shame because I was doing so well.
Yeah.
And then I had this bachelor party I was going to. It was the best man. I was very naive to where we were going. Like I said, I've never been to a strip club in my life.
Mm.
We went to Cartagena, Colombia, which prostitution's legal there. And to be frank, I always have wanted to go to South America my whole life. Not for those reasons.
Sure.
I I used to be completely obsessed with snakes. You love the Anaconda, the movie. I think I watched a million times.
Okay.
So me, I was like, oh, I can't wait to go to South America. It's gonna be so cool. And this was with a friend group that still good friends with and stuff, but they're just a little bit different than I'd say some of like the Catholic school guys that I'm still friends with today. Like just kind of different, you know, um, Catholic school guys. Like none of us like ever went to strip clubs or something. And if someone did, we would like castigate them and be like, "What are you doing?"
Mhm.
Other group, a little bit more loose with that.
Sure.
And this is my first time like really going on a trip with like that group. But anyways, like I didn't partake in any of that stuff down there, but I was definitely in like I was in it. Some of them came back to the place, and I was just trying to keep everyone safe. But I was still there, right?
Yeah.
And I should have just completely fleed from the sin, but I didn't.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it was just a bad place to be. I was the only married guy there, and it
Mm.
just was like, hey, I'm gonna do my best. But still, like just being there in the first place is not good. And I think I realized that like right away. I was like, oh crap, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, made it out of there alive, didn't cheat or anything like that. But when I got back, it was just like going through and talking through all that and then talking about my relapse. It just was terrible. Like it's just like all the mountain moving I did. It just felt like it just went right back, maybe a little bit close, like like hey, I pushed it like 5 feet. Well, it went back like 10 feet. It's kind of how
Mm.
it felt like. So that was really hard. I think that was like the first time like the D word kind of came up.
Mhm.
Uh, and then I started to go to therapy. Uh, so I kind of missed talking about this, but before we bought our house, I was going to a Christian therapist, and he was really helping me like a lot. We were just about to do, I think it's EMDR,
Mhm.
which is eye movement.
Right.
Uh, I'm trying to remember what the whole term of it is called, but a
Mhm.
lot of people know what it is. But it's basically like you're recircuiting like your brain through your eyeballs,
Right.
and
My wife went through it.
yeah, and I
She
mean,
swears
God,
by it.
I do too. It
Mm.
helped me so much. But the crazy thing was I was about to do that when I was before we moved and got our house. So I never did it. I was
Ah.
about to, never did it.
Mm.
Then, well, this is actually, I should not skip over this at all. This is actually my come to Jesus moment in my life that I'll never forget.
Do it.
But yeah, when I got back from this trip and everything hit like a freight train, man, like I felt for the first in my life like suicidal, like to where I was like, I don't know what to do. I kept saying like, what does it matter? Because
Mhm.
I was just like, I just felt like I did so much work, and yeah, like I had a relapse, and I held it back, and yeah, like I went on this trip, but I just kind of felt like it didn't matter anymore for me. Like there was no way to salvage all the work that I did,
Mhm.
And these are a lot of things I was telling myself, right? And I mean, the amount of stuff that my ex like put up with is like legendary. I think in a way when I look back, like she had a lot of patience, a lot of grace, all that stuff. But when I look back at it, I just was like, wow, like this is happening. Like this could happen where we could get a divorce. And for me, I think a big thing in my life, my identity was being like a husband, you know? And yeah, I struggle with porn and stuff, but I was still working to fix that and to move some mountains, right?
Mm.
And then this happens. And I think a big reason why it happened is I just started to drift from God. I think if I was close to God and they said, hey, we're going to go here, I think I would have picked up on some more of the warning signs because I just went into
Mhm.
it like, hey, it'll be fine, you know, and it was not.
Pride.
But if I was close to God, like if someone asked me that like right now, I'd be like no, like I'm not going to go there.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Like you go have fun. I'm not going to do that. Um, but yeah, it
Mm.
happened, right? You can't take it back. It happened. You learn a lot from it. But yeah, so I just really felt like it might have been that day, I think, when we got back home. It just was just like I just felt like this is it. Like I didn't have any plans, but I
Sure.
really felt like at my wits' end. So I ended up calling the hotline and I just was like, I need
Wow.
help. And she was helpful, right? Like she wasn't like pushing me in any way, but I think she could tell like I was just in a different state to where I was just broken down all the way. Like the worst I've ever been in my life was that day, like
Mm.
hands down, like emotionally, everything. And man, I'll never forget it, man. Like I just felt like I was in this river and I was drowning, like just
Mhm.
Colorado. Like I've fished rivers before in Colorado. Like there's some crazy spots, right, with the big boulders and like you could just die in there. And that's how I felt like, man. I just felt like I was drowning. I had nothing left, literally nothing left to look forward to. Like, it was nothing, but I prayed for God to save me. I'll never
Mm.
forget that. I said, "Jesus, save me," and he did. He did, man. I feel it now, but it felt like I hit a boulder in the river, and I was
Mm.
able to kinda climb up on it, and
Wow.
you hit a boulder in the river, it's still gonna hurt like hell,
Sure.
but you're alive, and I'll never forget that. It was just I had this moment of clarity. I remember God speaking to me. It was just like my name, just a
Mhm.
very it's weird when it happens. You just hear, like, your name and you're like, "Whoa." But I don't know. I think you have to get to kind of a mental state for that to happen sometimes, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's a state where you're not distracted by anything. Like, it's just pure, I don't know, instinct or whatever it is.
Some people say it's when you finally come to the end of yourself and realize that you
Mm,
have nothing to offer God, right?
mm,
Like, I am
right,
a miserable failure, and
right.
then you turn to Him, that's when He knows that your heart is ready for Him.
Mm.
Because pride is what actually separates us from God. It's pride, human pride, that we can do this on our own. We don't need Him. We don't need to connect with Him. And so that's exactly what you're describing. You came to the end of yourself. You had nothing left to offer, and he met you there, and that's where he meets all of us, man.
Yeah, yeah, and so I always look back on that. I think when you're talking back about the lies about yourself was I remember that moment, right? I think there's tons of biblical, like, when I'm reading scripture that stand out to me, but a big part of it too is just, like, what you experience in your life, right? And I think that moment for me always pulls me back. Like, if I'm ever
Mhm,
feeling down or whatever, I'm like, "God was there for me at my
mhm,
worst,
mhm,
so he's gonna be there for me for the rest of my life, and
mhm,
I can rely upon him," right? He's gonna keep his promises for me.
mhm. I call
Regardless.
those I
Yeah.
call those moments prophetic promises,
Yeah.
where they're moments where you can look back. It's kinda like, the Jews, the Israelites in the wilderness.
Mm,
Whenever God did something for them, they built something called an Ebenezer. It was a tower, like an altar basically, to commemorate what God had done for them there, so that
mm,
if they ever came back to that place, they could look at the altar and say, God helped us through the wilderness here, you know? And I'm telling you, every single person has these moments in their life where they can look back and they can think, this is where I really encountered God. And when you
totally.
do that, you can see like the stones, the stepping stones of your life as he's encountering, as you are encountering the Lord doing things in your life. You can see a trajectory forward of where he wants you to go. And I promise you, it's always closer to him every time, right? It's more deeper relationship, more time spent in the Lord, more time spent reading scripture, more, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, it's like that. It's, at least in that period of time, it was like a flow state of, like, not like a great flow state to be in, but like you said, you're not, like, thinking about anything else,
Yeah.
but God's there, and what a feeling that is. I mean, it's life-changing. So, basically, with all that being said, right, so, got help. I got connected with this Christian therapist, where I was at. Really cool. He actually owns his own dojo, um, and helps inner city kids.
Hmm.
And he said, "Hey, part of your therapy is coming to learn. What is it? It's like this chain punching technique. I'm trying to remember the actual form of martial arts it was. Gosh, Wing Chun, I think it was.
Okay.
But so he'd say, "Hey, this is your part of your therapy. Like, you don't have to pay for it. So just come to class." So it was just really cool. He's in a Christian metal band, kind of an unconventional dude, which I love. I mean, I'm an unconventional guy myself, and
Me
so
too.
I think we tried to do couples therapy. I didn't quite work the way I thought it would, but I
Mm,
stuck with him, because I think he really spoke to me in such a way that was relatable. But he challenged me. I mean, he stuck my feet to the fire a lot, and
mm,
it helped. Like, it kind of felt like what I was getting initially when I was before I moved. Like, I was getting that kind of feedback from a man ahead of me, like a mentor almost, and what I was getting from Matt Dobschutz when I was doing the coaching. That kind of stuff. You need someone like that in your life. You need somebody a little ahead of you that's going to push you a little bit. That's going to challenge you. And then also with this guy, I mean, he went to Colorado Christian College. He knew the Bible, so he was teaching me about how to be a good Christian man as well. And I think teaching me and having therapy and doing these EMDR treatments through a biblical lens, I mean, that started to change my life. And the way he was talking about this therapy is like, you're going to have these repressed memories that are going to start just like, it's going to be like a domino. And once we find like what that big domino is, like that's going to knock all the other dominoes over.
Mm.
And yeah, for me, it was, when I was starting to get addicted to porn, that's when my dad was having some struggles with alcohol.
Mm.
And he was never abusive physically, but my dad was my light bringer. And that's something that my therapist taught me about was this is someone that you held in like the highest esteem. And the minute you see them in a different state, can you hear my dog in the background, by the way? Any panting? Okay, good. I got an old dog. Sometimes he does that. But anyways, my dad was my light bringer, right? And I saw him in this state where he would just kind of be checked out. I think he was just going through a lot of stuff. And that was just his way, I think. Like porn was my thing. I think alcohol was his,
Mhm.
to where he would check out.
Yeah.
And to have someone that was so involved in your life, like he was like my basketball coach. Like he played college basketball. I wanted to play college basketball. Like he was just so involved and like such a good man, still is a good man, always has been a good man. And my mom too, just great people. But I think when someone's like that involved in your life and you just look up to him so much and you're starting to, hey, I'm going into high school. Like I'm ready to play basketball. Like I'm feeling good. And a lot of those moments just felt like he was a little bit distant. Not all the time, but seemed like the moments that mattered. Like one of the times was my college graduation and
Mm.
really wasn't present. I was so mad and angry. I just felt like he valued it more than me. He valued alcohol more than me. And I
Mhm.
think that's what really locked in a lot of that feeling I was telling you about earlier of not feeling valued.
Yeah.
I mean, because when I was in high school, I moved into the basement, and that was like the porn kingdom, because I'd walk in, and if he was drunk, I'd be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go downstairs, turn on the computer, and go. Like that
Mm.
was every time.
It was like
So
a shelter from the chaos of your dad's alcoholism.
yeah, and it was almost like that Pavlov's dog. Like it was like the bell was ringing in the basement, and my mouth
Mm.
started to water because I was like, okay, well, I'm not getting any attention here,
Yeah.
so let me go get attention down there, right? But I wouldn't have really ever thought of that if I didn't go and do this EMDR with my Christian therapist.
Right.
Because the minute I figured it out, I was like, "Oh, wow, like,
No, it's really
that's."
great. He did a good service for you. Like, so this is
Oh,
one of the things that I teach in my Victory in Christ course is that, as we live in a fallen world, and because we do, every once in a while something falls on us and hurts us and
right,
wounds us in deep ways, and things that, for somebody else who might be listening to your story, they would hear what you went through and they're like, big deal, his dad was a drunk. But they're equating their own life and experience to your story, right? To you in that moment, in that time, with all the other aspects of your life in place, it was deeply wounding for you, and it was forming you to use this practice of coping with porn, right? That when your life got stressful in the future, you would replay that tape, right? And then when you felt worthless or afraid, or angry like you did with your dad, then you would revert right back to the porn, right? And we all
yep,
have these, right? And it's not always porn. Sometimes it's overeating, or it's, drinking like your dad. Like he was coping for something, man. Something was going on that made him feel worthless, and he went to the bottle, during that time. And so this is everybody in the world that is going through what we're talking about here, because we live in a fallen world. And until you find these core wounds that you're describing, you are never going, you're just going to be white knuckling, and it's never going to do any good. You'll go for maybe a year or two like you did, but then you're going to fall eventually when the stressors arise and that wound gets reopened again. And so you're talking about actually dealing with the wounds of your life.
yeah, man, and I think something that's, pretty interesting too was, having these conversations with my dad later, and we've had really good conversations about it.
Mm.
And I mean, he gave me permission to write the article to talk about it publicly, which I commend him for, because I mean, that's a part of his
Okay.
life too. that,
Yeah.
he might look back on that and not be proud of it. But I don't know, man. I just think that it's important. Not like we all have to share everything about our lives. I think that's the interesting thing about this whole porn free millennial thing is it's like I'm putting a microscope on my life, and I'm just trying to hopefully show that a little bit to people just to say, hey, I'm not anyone special. This you can get into a really bad spot. You can also get yourself out of a really bad spot. You can also just avoid the bad thing entirely if you can. I think
Mhm.
that's what I'm trying to do through just talking about my experiences. And like you said, I think like dealing with the actual pain, like dealing with, I think that the Gabor Mate is a really well known, I think psychologist therapist, but he said, it's not why the trauma, it's why the pain.
Right.
Like the pain is what I think is there. The pain is like the fuel, I think,
Mhm.
for the addiction. Like
Yeah.
if we can address the pain, right? If we can get healed, which who's the ultimate healer? Jesus is the
Yes.
ultimate healer in our life, right? So
Yeah.
if I can seek Jesus and I can seek healing through Jesus, then I mean the pull of the addiction goes away because I don't have the pain. Because
Right.
then you just look at porn as such a different light too. Where like I don't really have any pain that I'm trying to medicate, so like why would I want to go do that? It's
Right.
not as attractive anymore because you're just like, well, I don't really have any fuel to go look at porn.
Right. It's like you don't take aspirin when you don't have a headache because you don't need aspirin anymore. Right.
Yeah, and then you find out, right, that some of these drugs can really cause some severe health issues if you take too much of them.
Mhm.
And, like, I don't even know, like, not talking about aspirin or that too much, but I don't even really remember it's been a really long time since I've even taken pain medication. Like, I used to take it all the time
Hmm.
when I was in high school and college because I had 2 knee surgeries,
Oh, wow.
but I just kinda learned over time, it's like, "Okay, we'll just eat better, get good sleep." And, I mean, typically, that will help. It's not gonna solve everything, but it's just, like, natural things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess anyways, like, just I think through the therapy, right, that's where I really started to be like, "Oh, like, that's a big root there that I need to address," right? Like, I need to address, like, that root right there, and I did, and that was really healing for me, I think. Uh, and the interesting thing was I did kinda some of that work already without even knowing it,
Mm.
because when my dad and I went, I think it was in 2018, I got married in 2017, but the year after, I shot my first elk, and I had a conversation, like a heart to heart with my dad that trip, and I just said, "Hey," because I think we had one night where, like, my ATV wasn't working right, and he was, not sober, and he just wasn't helpful, and there was, like, a big blizzard, and we were gonna go see my uncle down the mountain, like, kinda drive down to his RV and hang out with him, and I just didn't feel, like, really that safe. I was like, "Okay, like, I'm just gonna keep an eye on dad, and we're gonna get down there." And I think the next day I just had a talk with him and just said, "Hey, like, I love you, but if you drink like this and we go hunting, I don't feel like it's safe, like, and also your health is not good. So I want to hunt with you till you're like 90. And if you keep drinking like this, like, I don't know if that's going to happen." And I just remember I came at it from a place of love. Like, I definitely had like a lot of anger, but
Mm.
I think the hunting really broke down those walls because my dad and I do that every year in Colorado. We go elk hunting. It's like a
Mm.
big tradition.
Yeah.
But after that trip, he stopped drinking. Just
Awesome.
you didn't go to group. You just stopped, which
I
is
love
pretty
that, man.
and I wrote about it. I was trying to while you're talking, I was trying to find a link because I had an article that was a pretty cool one that I wrote about it. But,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, I think that's an important thing, right, to stay on topic with all this is it's doing the work, I think, to figure out, like, what is that root pain that's,
Mm.
like, pushing you there? Because I think a lot of people another lie is that porn's just a sexual thing. "Hey, I'm a guy. I need to fill my needs." I roll my eyes sometimes where guys are like, "Well, if there was no porn, then like, men would just be running around like crazy doing crazy things." I'm like, if you like have that little of self-control or value in your life, like, yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
but it's
What they
not like
don't understand is that the porn itself is giving them the sex drive that
yeah,
makes them feel like they can't stop. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, and I mean, I just got done my last episode was with, an anti-trafficking, one of the, organizations that works in Colorado that I'm starting to partner with.
Sweet.
Met them through church. They're called Refined. I mean, they're just talking about how if they said, like, if there was no porn, there'd be no trafficking. It just fuels the demand. I mean, when you're watching this stuff and you have that proclivity and you keep feeding it, you're going to eventually want more stuff. And
Mhm.
you're going to go lower in your age, and you're going to start to like actually seek out people to have that interaction with. And man, I just think with sin, right? Like once you commit that sin,
Mhm.
that's the crazy thing about sin though, I think, is the more levels you go with it, the more unforgivable you feel. So then you kind of keep going.
Yeah.
And that's how you feel like with porn too, right? Is like initially it's like, I mean, my first experience was like watching a movie
Mhm.
and doing this, right? That was like the first time I saw nudity was like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not watching, right? And then I mean, the first time with porn was at my friend's house, like in his dad's office. But like when I compare like what I looked at then to some other things I was exposed to, and again, I never went that far down that rabbit hole, thank God. You know, like I still had that in me where I'm like, there's some things I'll never look at, you know,
Yeah.
if it comes to children or any of that stuff. But I mean, gosh, you don't know sometimes the things you come across online.
Yeah.
And what I learned, you know, with talking to, you know, the anti-sex trafficking organization and working with them, I mean, and I wrote an article about this too, about reading this book called Takedown by Lila McElwaite. I mean, she did a lot of work with exposing that Pornhub. Like, you don't even have, they didn't even require people to say what age they were or if that there was consent. Because the one thing about like the porn industry, like the old school porn industry, like making videos and all that stuff, again, not good, but they were a little bit more professional on, you know,
Mhm.
you had to sign certain things, you know, there was certain like legal documents, but like once Pornhub came around and all these different sites, it was more user generated. So like all that stuff with the internet, it was like the Wild West for a while. And there
Mhm.
was some new legislation passed. There's some lawsuits that came about a little after 2020 that I think put some better ground rules there. And Pornhub had to remove a lot of their stuff because of these lawsuits, because a lot of the content was not consensual, right?
Mhm.
And underage, things like that.
Mhm.
So like when you're on these sites, like you have no clue if you're watching somebody like getting raped. Like
Yeah.
you have no clue, right? And I think
That's true.
also the searches that people do, I mean, like incest, choking, you know, a lot of violent stuff.
Much
So
of what you find on the internet is it comes from human trafficking. And
yeah,
so, talking about consent, like these are human trafficked slaves that are doing sex work, and you're getting gratification from it.
yeah, right. So I think that's where, you know, we can get stuck in that shame. And if anyone's watching this that has watched porn recently, like I'm not putting shame on you. Like repent.
Sure. Yeah,
The victory is ours with Christ, right?
that's right.
You will be forgiven. Uh, but don't let it hold you down. But also come to terms with it and be like, yeah, like that's not right. Like I,
Correct.
I shouldn't be doing that. And as a Christian too, like these are children of God, every one of them.
Yeah.
Every single person's a children or is a child of God, right? And I think with that lens, and I think with therapy and all of that, that really started to help me. And maybe that's kind of circling back to like the divorce. I know I kind of did a long story there,
Yeah.
but I think you know, started to go to therapy, started to go to church, started to go to Bible study in my new city. And I think things, at least on my end, started to get better. Not on the other end. I think that whole trip and all of that, I think that could have sealed the deal just with, you know, how she was feeling about things. And
Mm.
then yeah, it was eventually like I just think it kind of just kept getting worse and worse. I just think our intimacy and just the relationship in general just felt like it wasn't getting better. And then I think it was basically right before our 5th year anniversary, I think the conversation just really kind of came to a head and we agreed that it was going to happen.
Mm.
Cause I mean, I'll be honest, like I felt like I was kind of in a prison myself. Like it sucked, man. Like you're in your house, you know, got deer in my yard. I love to hunt, you know, just I had my own garden, you know, a nice yard, could see the mountains, beautiful, you know, beautiful. And I had a wife, all this stuff, right? But I still felt like kind of like a prisoner in my own home. I just felt like I couldn't do anything right. Just felt like whatever I did, it just wasn't working. And you just kind of come to the sense of like, well, I've got to at least do what I can, you know, for my own sake and my relationship with Christ. You can't ever force somebody to, you know, go that way with you. not like she was like going away, but it's just we were just on a different path. And yeah, in a way, it felt like relief. I think when we agreed upon it. I think as a Christian, it still just feels like wrong, right, that it happened. But
Before you gave your life to Jesus, though, in baptism, right?
yeah, I mean, I was baptized when I was a baby, you know, but I think for me, uh, during that period of time, I was doing my best to go to church on Sunday and to go to Bible study, and but I think the one thing I could have done better at, I think personally, would have been talking to like the local church there more about it and talking about that with like family and friends more, because I think when we told people, it was just blindsiding everybody. Because I think on the outside we just appeared as that couple that kind of had everything figured out, and we
Mhm.
didn't, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that looking back on that, you know, that's just something I was like, oh, man, I wish I would have had enough wherewithal there to do that, but you know, it's just kind of just felt like, yeah, like this is going to be something that like she's not going to change her mind on, so let's just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we did, and that was just so hard. And again, I think that's kind of why I write and talk about it too, is I'm trying to paint a picture of, you know, you hear some recovery, like thank God for your recovery, right? And that you're married, you guys are able to get through that, but it doesn't always happen that way.
That's right.
And I'm kind of on the other side of that, to where I'm that guy that actually went through a divorce, and I'm still fighting the good fight, right? Like I didn't let that get me down. I did slide a bit through that period of time, just because I just was in a bad spot, you know. Like I was going to church and stuff, but I think I did have a period of time like when it was kind of the time when it was like I think it was a month or two before the paper signed. I think that was just so rough for me. It just sucked because I think we separated for a couple of months. I was at my parents' house. That totally felt emasculating.
Mm.
To go back to my basement, my parents' house. Really, that's where my porn addiction really was fueled,
Wow.
was in my basement.
Mm.
And that's kind of where it reared its head for a little bit to me too, which is interesting to think about.
Yeah. So
But
you're
yeah,
saying
man,
after the divorce that you started having the habit again in the
yeah, it was
basement?
kind of like it was like kind of like right before the divorce happened,
Mhm.
and then a little bit after it.
Yeah.
But then I reconnected with Vern because he was helping me out a little bit before, and then I said, "Hey, like I really need your help," you know. So we started to do one-on-one coaching. That's when I got my first accountability software. Um, well, actually, that was like in February of 2023. The divorce happened in March, so I think I got back into like actually doing
Mm.
recovery with somebody because I took a little bit of a break. Um, that was like in February, and that's when my little brother and I became accountability partners. It was in February 2023,
That's
a
cool.
month before my papers finalized.
Mm.
Yeah, we've been accountability partners ever since. Uh, love my little brother. Yeah, he's my best friend. He's actually an addiction counselor himself.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, and we talk every day. I actually got a message from him I got to listen to after we're done talking, but we check in with each other. We do a fast check in, which is like an acronym,
Mhm.
where we kind of go through that every day of just like, hey, like, how are you feeling today? What are your activities in recovery? And then S is like sobriety, where you at? T is threats to sobriety, and then the last T is tools. It's like, what tools are you using? So we
Mhm.
do that every day, and then we respond to each other. But I think that's when like I started to work with Vern again, uh, and then my little brother. We started to do our daily accountability with each other. And then in May, I started my Porn Free Millennial podcast, and my so really when you think about it, like I wasn't even that sober that long. But I was in recovery for a bit, right?
Yeah.
I think there's some differences there, right? Like you can have a slip in your recovery or your sobriety where you have a relapse. But that doesn't mean you're out of recovery. Like you're momentarily, you know, you fall off. But I mean, for me, I've been in recovery for like 8 years, and I've learned a ton. Now, have I been sober for 8 years? No. You know,
Mhm.
I've had times where I've relapsed. But with all that being said, I started up the podcast. I started up my publication. I was like, hey, it ain't pretty. It ain't pretty at all, but I need an outlet to just talk about this stuff. And I think
Yeah.
for me, a lot of it was driven by just my love for my little brother. And you know, he's I think just celebrated his 6th year married. And a lot of it, I was just looking at him and I'm like, I don't want him to go through this. You know,
Mm.
like I don't want anyone to go through this. So I think that's part of what I do is I don't want people to go through it. And if something I say can help or something that I write can spark something in someone's mind, like planting a seed or something, I think that would be, work well done, serving others, glorifying God is just, tell my story and then also just providing different perspectives on it, things like that. Because I think really ultimately, I do think porn is like one of the greatest tools of the enemy to steal, kill, and destroy, like really. And it's so normalized, right? And you were talking about this too, the spiritual warfare. I'm proud to say my church, we actually have this thing called Fight Club at Flatirons Church in Colorado. They're starting that on the 20th of June. So if anyone's listening in Colorado, it's free, but they're going to be focusing on sexual integrity. And I started to talk with them a little bit. I hope I can kind of collaborate with them a little bit on something. Pastor Jim did use one of my analogies in one of the sermons as last month, and I was just struck. I was like,
Mm.
"What?" I remember that day I kind of showed up just a little bit late, not super late, but just kind of showed up one of those days, right, where you're not really your expectations are like, "Hey, I'm just open to whatever is said today." And that whole sermon was focused on pornography.
Wow.
And he used one of my analogies, and I talked to him after, and he's like, "Was that the podcast you did with the guy with 8 kids?" I'm like, "Oh, Christopher Lind, who he has a Substack. Really good dude. You guys would get along really well. You guys could preach back and forth.
Yeah, he
Highly.
and I talk all the time,
Oh
actually.
yeah, okay, cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So he said that, and I was like, man, I'm like, that's so cool. Because basically I was just saying, like, I got in an argument with a guy in a sauna. I was wearing my church thin red line band, which is about having integrity and as a man. And there was another guy from Flatirons in the sauna, and then this other guy busted in like right when I was talking about my podcast, and he was just saying like, I watch porn for like practice, and it doesn't have any effect on me, and blah 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 blah. And then you start to say like, like if somebody was playing Call of Duty, it's not they're gonna go out like shoot somebody or something. And I was like, okay. I'm like, but hey, think about this, okay? If you were playing Call of Duty or if you're watching like an action movie where someone's shooting a gun and then you actually had a gun in your hand and you shot somebody or something with that gun while you were watching that, you were simulating it. The thing about porn is you're actually watching people having sex. Like they're actually having sex. So if you're watching an action movie or you're playing a game, like that'd be like actually watching somebody die or get
Mhm.
shot.
Right.
And then to add to that is not only are you watching it, but you're actually doing it. You're
Right.
simulating it yourself as you're watching.
Right.
So that would be the equivalent. Like if I was watching an action movie,
Mhm.
playing Call of Duty, like I'm like shooting a gun in the air, or I'm like stabbing. I think that's what I said on the podcast was stabbing. Like that's gonna mess your mind up. Like I'm sorry, like that is gonna affect your mind in a different way than just watching a movie. Is like if you're actually simulating the action while it's happening, that is going to tie into your neural pathways and it's going to do something different chemically
Right.
than you're just watching a movie with no consequence. You're just sitting there. Uh,
Absolutely. I mean, the funny thing is he's trying to use a scientific argument, right? It's just sex, right? It's just science, right? But what he doesn't understand is the dopamine response that's happening in his brain is actually literally changing his brain. You know? And
yeah,
so, this is why I think the Bible says sexual sins are not like other sins because they're a sin against your own body. So
right,
even the Bible is distinguishing sexual sin from other sins, and you have things like Jesus who's talking about divorce is not permissible unless there's been sexual immorality, and so sexuality
yep,
is this level of sin that God is protecting the world from our abuse of. That's what he's trying to do, is trying to protect the world from our abusing of it. And it is not a victimless crime,
right,
uh, you know, to the pornography like we talked about before. But you're also just hurting yourself. You're literally just hurting yourself, abusing yourself. And God loves you. He doesn't want you to he doesn't want you to abuse yourself. It's really that simple.
yeah, right. Well said, man. But
Thanks, man.
I guess I can kind of, if you want, I can kind of talk about maybe just a little bit of the aftermath and then just
Yeah,
picking my.
I would like you to go from the aftermath into the baptism. That would be amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, yeah, it was just hard, right? It was hard. I mean, I just remember telling people about it and them having no idea what I was going to talk about, like friends, family, and just seeing their eyes get teary. I just remember that. I remember it like yesterday, just telling my friends, telling family, and just the sadness, that hits them. Um, and I'm like, I'm delivering this pain to them, like this is the effect. This is the victims. This is the aftermath of when you marry somebody under God, like you're bonded to them, and you're bonded like their family too. And that was a hard thing too. I had a good relationship with their parents, and that's gone. You know, all these things, right? And it hit me in waves a lot. I mean, I really didn't feel like I fully recovered from it until, gosh, maybe 5, 4, maybe even sooner. It was like about 4, 3 months ago. I really felt like a peace
Wow.
drifted over me where I was like, okay, I think I'm good now because it'll always be with me a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But there was times, I mean, just after it all, where I had some really rough times, like crying myself to sleep. That happened. Like I'm not gonna say I didn't, like I can get emotional. And I definitely did. I mean, I think that opened up a lot of emotions in me was that whole thing. For better or for worse. I think for better. But sometimes, right, when it's right after that, you're not always thinking clearly or all that stuff. One thing that I did do, which might have been a little bit too quick, but I bought this RV that I'm in right now. That was one of the first things that I did when the papers finalized was I'm buying an RV because I lived in a house for like 2 years and I didn't want to go back to like renting. I didn't want to live in my parents' basement. So I just thought, hey, how about I get an RV and I hit the road and get my Starlink and work remote? Because I work a corporate job in auto insurance. I've been doing that for 10 years now. And it was like it started to go remote around the time of COVID.
Sure.
So I was kind of already used to working remotely, right? And I just thought this would actually be a better way to kind of figure out myself a little bit. And I just didn't really know where I wanted to live. So yeah, I got the RV in April of 2023. I bought it from a man named Jesus. So on the paperwork, Jesus sold me the RV.
That's awesome.
I know. I
You
took
know.
a picture of it. It's so funny. It's just
Mm,
like I like that's got to be some kind of sign. I don't know. I'm gonna make it a sign because that was just hilarious.
that's good.
Um, but yeah, man, I'm still in it as of today, right? Like I got probably about a year and a half left on my loan. So I've just been paying my loan down. But, I got in it. I went across the country from Colorado all the way down the Florida Keys. That was my initial voyage over the summer.
Mm,
And that was just great, man. Like I saw so much family, people I just haven't seen for a while. Like one of them, my cousin Nicole, she lives in Ohio. That's like kind of where my mom's side of the family is from. Had a great time. She knew this guy that he has like 80 acres. He's like he owns a construction company. It
wow.
was just crazy. There was like 50 RVs there, and there was 2 ponds. There was like a zip line on one of them. There was all these trails we could go off roading, and they had fireworks, and it was just really cool. Felt really accepted there. They kind of thought I was weird because they didn't know what kombucha was or yoga. What the heck's wrong with you? What's
Wow.
kombucha? But it was a good time. Like it was just great for me to like get out and just enjoy things and just like not feel like a weight's like over me. Like it's just like, hey, like you're good, man. Like this is a new life for you. Like figure out what you like and what you don't. That's what one of my uncles told me. He's like, you're gonna know more about like what you don't like, when you get into dating again and things like that. And of course, got a lot of good advice about just getting close with Christ and everything. So really, like that trip for me was just stepping outside of my comfort zone, seeing a bunch of friends. Like I was telling you about my personal freedom podcast. My first episode was with my childhood best friend TJ Wood. I went down to see him. Actually, it was in February before my divorce. I flew down there. We went fishing, and then in the summer I went down again with the RV, and we went down to Key Largo. and I had 3 other dudes. It was him, my other really good friend Zedek, and that's an abbreviation. That's what we call him.
Okay.
And then TJ's cousin Ben. We were all in the RV together, which was hilarious. But we just had such a great time fishing. Out in the Keys was great. And TJ's got his own boat now. So
Mm.
that's what the podcast, the Personal Freedom Podcast, was basically. His personal freedom was him getting his boat last year. And now I'm actually going to fly out there next week and we're going to go fishing again.
Oh, to the
So
Keys?
what's that?
To the Keys?
No, he lives kind of close to like Pompano Beach,
Okay.
that kind of area. So
Mm.
he has a condo and we just go out and we fish from that.
Sweet. You're in my neck of the woods, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
hey man,
Florida, the Keys. I've been there. It's a beautiful place.
yeah, man. Well, maybe we'll see if you're open next Saturday or something. Maybe you can come
Definitely not. But I appreciate the offer. Yeah.
yeah. But anyways, so I took the RV out. I went through a bunch of states I haven't been through, like North Carolina, South Carolina. Spent some time. Hey, there we go. What is that?
Yeah, that's Lake Junaluska, North Carolina.
What is that?
Yeah, it's in Cherokee County in the southeast of North Carolina, southwest.
Yeah, went through Asheville. Loved Asheville. Stayed at Jordan Lake. Went by Chapel Hill because I'm a big North Carolina Tar. Like I'm a big MJ fan. Like I love Michael Jordan. Sure. So I went through there. That was just so cool. So I mean, the RV life, I think it really allowed me to just see a bunch of things, meet up with family I haven't seen forever. Like my cousin Sam, I hadn't seen him since my wedding. He's a year older than me. He was in Tampa. I saw him on the way. We spent like a few days together, just caught up. It was super cool. He actually gave me this knife here. So I'll show you guys this. Cool.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's the Crocodile Dundee moment where you say,
that's a knife.
That's a knife. But it's really cool. It's actually my dad's awesome. He just said, hey, why don't you bring Sam some of these paintings that he left in, because he moved from Denver to Florida. And one of the paintings was he had a bulldog that passed away. And he didn't have the painting, so I brought it with me on this voyage. And he was so appreciative that he sent me this knife that was at his apartment that I think was made by, it was like some Arabic family that's been making them for like generations. Cool. That he got in Denver. So this is a cool thing, right? So it's just adventures. I mean, one of my best friends that was like my first best friend, like lives in Tennessee with his wife and kid, spent some time with them. It was just awesome. Hit up a bunch of live music scenes, which I just love just to get out and like, I'm a big people person. So for me, it was just cool just to be around people and to dance and just to like have fun and to have fun, like not in a way where I was like just sleeping around and stuff. Really, it was just like having fun with just like talking to people and, what's your story? And here's my story. And it was just really healing for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say necessarily I was like reading the Bible every day and stuff.
Sure.
I was experiencing God, I think, through people and through nature and just really getting out there. And then, I got back and then, I just started, remember talking to my brother and I was like, I think I should like maybe, I don't know, get on the dating apps or something, like maybe go on a few dates. And he's like, are you sure? Like, it might be too soon, and it was my third date. I started to date this girl who was my ex-girlfriend. Really just an awesome person. And we healed a lot together. Relationship didn't end up working out. But I think that was a really cool relationship because the first time in my life it was a porn-free relationship.
Wow.
A year and a half. And man, what a difference that made. And I just want to give that testimony because being able to be in a relationship without porn in it was like, everything was so much easier. Like everything, like just, I think, and again, there was parts of it where I wasn't being biblically sound. I'll say that. I think I even talked to you about it, maybe offline, where I wanted you to pray for me. I just remember that was a big conflict for me. And that's, I think, eventually why things didn't work out. Because I was just like, I want to be biblical with everything. And that's where I'm at today. But I will say, like, intimacy, things like that, like night and day difference. with just how you treat somebody and how you like reciprocate love, how you feel love. It was in a way just to experience it, right? Was just so different for me. I was just like, whoa, like this is crazy. And I think a big part of it was because I wasn't, living this double life. Like I was good with my sobriety. I think the trip helped me out with that a lot because I think one thing with sobriety, man, is you got to be able to be by yourself. Like you got to
Mhm.
be able to enjoy. Like right now, I'm by myself in the mountains. It's the difference between solitude and isolation. Is solitude's like taking that alone time and enjoying it,
Mhm.
doing something active. Like for me, it's getting outside and going fishing. Like after this, probably get some lines in, but just doing something active. I think I learned like through that relationship is like, yeah, like when I'm not having that double life where I'm telling the truth, when I'm completely like locked in and focused on that person and like that is so much different from when you're just living this life that you're just constantly like have like a weight on your shoulders,
Yeah.
and you're holding stuff in from the other person.
Mhm.
And that's just never I don't think that's ever really gonna lead to anything fulfilling.
Sure.
Um,
I mean, not to mention the fact that, like we talked about before, women are looking for trust and security. And so the thing about our wives when we're using pornography is they are they are aware that something is going on. They just don't know the details, right?
yeah, right.
They are very intuitive. And so they will have this insecurity the whole time, right? And so they'll question you when you're asking them just normal questions or like saying normal statements like I did this. They'd be like, what do you mean by that? Because they're just insecure because they feel like something's wrong. And so
Right.
what you experienced was, since you were open and honest and a man of integrity, they didn't have that underlying and then therefore they could be more trusting, and it was a more amicable relationship because of it, right?
Yeah, I literally think it was like our fourth date. And the question came up is like, "Hey, like, why'd you get divorced?" And I was
Mm,
just like, "Well, let me tell you."
mm,
And then at the end, I'm like, "Yeah, I've got a podcast. I do coaching. I write about it. Like, I'm open about it." That's kind of the interesting thing. Like, literally, is that like I just started a date again. I'm not gonna say who it is, but I'm in a relationship now. Things are
mhm.
biblical, so we're good. First date was at
Nice.
Easter service, which
Nice.
was just the
Oh, that's a
best.
great first
It was
date,
the
man.
best, man. I'm like, if I can recommend that, if anyone's in the dating field, like take your girl out to church, man. It was the
Mm,
coolest thing ever. But I guess where that goes into that past relationship and then this current one is like, hey, this is like public information. Like I got it out here. Like and you can get a feel for how I've worked through this for the last 3 years.
mhm,
Like I have two podcasts where I talk about relapses that I had.
mhm.
So I'm like open about it. And
Right.
that's one thing for me is like I don't want to relapse for a lot of reasons, but one of them is like I don't want to like do a podcast about it and write about it.
Mhm. Oh, right.
Sucks.
Right, right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Very uncomfortable, yeah.
Very uncomfortable, but at the same time, I think it hopefully can kind of model for people. Like if
Mhm,
I can do this publicly and talk about it, hopefully you can do it privately and talk about it with somebody privately, right? But I guess I'm saying all that because when I had that conversation with my ex, when I had that conversation with the girlfriend I have now, I feel confident in it because I'm talking about, hey, like this is why things went south, and this is what I'm doing about it, and this is how I'm getting closer with God. Because I think, man, I think that leads up to that baptism, right? That happened 2 years ago.
yeah.
That was when I was in that relationship, with my ex. I just kept feeling this pull from God, like just this pull. Because I think at the time like we weren't biblical with how we were doing our relationship, and I just really felt like God was calling me to say, "Hey," because I was feeling conflicted about it, like I really was, and it was just if it was on Easter, and I just remember sitting there, and they do baptisms on Easter, right? And they do baptisms on other weekends, but Easter's kind of the big baptism weekend. And yeah, I went there and I biked there from my parents' house with my e-bike. So I wasn't prepared, and I drove home to my parents sopping wet with a big smile on my face.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I do remember too. Is that I think it was on Good Friday. I watched The Passion. which it's been a tradition ever since.
Mm.
Watching the Passion. I also was doing a fast, which has also been a tradition of mine, is to start the fast. I think this year I did it on Thursday all the way through, I think it was like Sunday morning.
Mhm.
So I was basically in a fasted state because I just decided to do it. I was like, hey, I really want to be present this Easter because I'm feeling different about it.
Mm.
So I did a fast. I remember watching the Passion. There was also this really cool sunrise service at Red Rocks Amphitheater that they do. They've been doing that for like 60 years in Colorado. So I went
Oh,
to
wow.
that. And then after that, I went to Flatirons and got baptized. And that was just a great weekend. And I think for me, as an adult, like, like a year after the divorce, for me, I just felt like that was like the next logical step in my life. Made so much sense to me was to get baptized again and just proclaim my love for Christ. That he's my king. He always will be, and I'm here to serve him, serve others. I think that's a big thing for me.
Mm.
So yeah, when I did that, I think the conviction became more apparent to like have a godly relationship and to pursue Christ number one, right?
Yeah.
So I think that baptism started kind of put in motion just really what was more important for the most important thing for me is to have a God in the center of my life. Like
Yeah.
that really firmed it up for me. And I think that created conflict in the relationship ultimately. And yeah, so then that ended. And then yeah, after that I went on another road trip.
Okay.
So that was so I was basically last summer. Yeah. Let's see,
Mm.
that was a little because we broke up in July last year. And it was just like right after that. I had a crazy July. We did a recovery group, our first trip of porn recovery guys. We went to Nevada, where Jim and Eric, the Brush Poppers, I did an episode with them. They hosted us. Vern, who I told you about, and some other guys I meet every Thursday. We all met together and we had a weekend together in Reno, basically.
Oh, cool.
Super cool. We made silver bullets, or lead bullets. When Jim and Eric picked me up at the airport, they were throwing a mouse trap at each other. They are
What?
they're like the best dudes. They're great. They're such a hoot. But they're like cousin-in-laws. And
Mm.
Jim's worked with Vern before, and Eric is like his cousin-in-law. Both just really awesome dudes. Really cool guys. Like one's a big real estate guy out there. Other guy used to be a fire marshal in Tahoe area, Virginia City. So both like pretty like guys have done a lot in their life. And they hosted us at Jim's. It's kind of like his summer house kind of place near Reno in Genoa.
Mhm. Yeah.
And man, we just had a great time, man. Like all Christian guys, so we prayed a lot. We shared our stories. We went to some different mines and shafts and did some like adventures. But when they picked us up from the airport, we started driving around all these mechanic shops to find like lead weights.
Mm.
And Eric was basically haggling with these places to see if he could get lead weights. And I'm like, what is this for? Well, then we went to like a gun shop and we tried to find like a mold. So
Mhm.
basically last night we made lead bullets that signified like burning the impurities, like the refiner's fire is what they called it.
Ah,
So it was like a whole tradition of it was just the coolest thing.
that's
So that
awesome.
happened. And then I had 2 business trips. I had this breakup. It was an emotional time for me.
I
It was an
imagine.
emotional time, man. And yeah, I ended up going all the way down to Texas, to Lake Jackson for this event. And then it was Ron Paul's 90th birthday. I'm kind of like a big Ron Paul, like libertarian fan.
Me
So it was
too.
his 90th birthday. So I went all the way down to see him because he kind of changed my life. Not to get into politics, but he changed my life in college on just how I looked at everything.
Mhm.
So he's like an influential guy, and I shook his hand. He signed my shirt in college. It was just cool.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So seeing him on his 90th birthday, I just want to put a pitch in. Like, if you ever want to do the nicest thing for somebody, one birthday gift, I've done this a few times, is like send a video for someone's birthday of just everyone saying happy birthday, how much they love him. It's free, easy to do, awesome. Second thing, his 90th birthday was just people lining up, different speakers, just talking about how he impacted their life.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, that's like the coolest thing ever.
Mm.
And he's a Christian guy too. I think he's been married for like almost 70 years.
Yeah.
But just looking at that and being like, that was a cool thing to do at that point in time where I just kind of felt like I think I was kind of going through an existential crisis, honestly, last summer.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
I was getting to this point where I was like, do I get married or do I not? And I just
Mhm.
didn't, it just wasn't there. And I was just like, I want to get married, but I want like God to be in the absolute center because I know
Yeah.
that if it's not, it's gonna not be easy, and it's gonna. I went through that already,
Yeah.
where God, He wasn't in the center, and I'm just like, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, man, yeah. So that's kind of like my trip over the summer. I did have a relapse that I talked about. I think that was episode 51.
Hmm.
That was just. I think I just drank too much in New Orleans, and just felt that existential, like those lies kind of crept in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wasn't in a good mind state for that. But I did a podcast about it, so if you want to listen to that, you guys can. Episode, I think it's 51.
Hmm.
Yeah, and since then I've been sober, which is cool. So I think now it's close to 9 months, 8, 9 months there. I don't know. I don't really think about the day counts too much. I just think about what does today look like for me? Because you
Yeah.
never know if it's going to be your last day.
Yeah. So we got two more questions. So the first one I want to ask is, so, like, porn addiction recovery before and after Jesus. Like, was there a contrast, and what is that contrast that you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I think before I really started to intentionally follow Christ, right? Because I raised Catholic, I think Christ's always been in my life, but really, truly, um, that come to Jesus moment I told you about.
Yeah.
A lot of it I just felt like I was alone. Like I believed the lie that I was alone, and there was a lot of white knuckling, a lot of thinking I could do it on myself by myself, and then failing. And I think too, when you don't have God in your life and you fail, like you put all that responsibility on yourself, and it's a huge weight to carry, right? It can really wear you down. So I'd really say since Christ has been in my life, I've not felt worn down. I've felt empowered. I think I've felt very confident, you know, especially after being baptized. Convicted, I think, is a word. You have a conviction, I
Mhm.
think, to be a better man and to reflect Christ. I mean, that's one of the most important things in my life is can I reflect Christ to others? Like, can someone see Christ in me? Like, I hold that with a lot of value. I didn't quite hold it with a lot of value before,
Mhm.
but now it's something I think about all the time. It's like if I'm interacting with somebody at the grocery store, or even if I'm by myself, um, am I acting in a Christ-like way? Am I following him or am I rejecting him? So I think really since that come to Jesus moment, since the baptism, for me, I've never felt alone. I felt empowered with things, encouraged, and really, I think also just inspired to serve other people.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things I love about just the Gospels and the Word of Christ is He's calling us to service.
Yeah.
He's telling us like drop this stuff, drop this fleshly stuff, the world, like
Yeah.
serve other people,
Mhm.
like serve other people, and how do you serve other people? I think you reflect Christ and you follow Christ. I think that serving people is really a byproduct of following Christ. You follow Christ, you will serve people.
Yeah.
It's just a part of it's gonna be a part of your life. You're gonna want to do it. You're
When
gonna
you've
be
received so much love from him, it's an
exactly.
overflow of the love that you've received from him. That's really truly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is, man. I think that's really what it is. It's ultimately I think just not feeling alone
That's
in that.
awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. When you said reflecting the image of Christ, it reminded me, like, so a couple things. First off, one of the 10 commandments is don't take the Lord's name in vain.
Mm,
And we've sort of in culture like broken that down and distilled it down to just don't say his name wrong. Like, don't say Jesus Christ as a curse, right? Or whatever. Or God damn it, don't say that, right? You're taking the Lord's name in vain. But there's been a lot of theologians that have broken that down and shown that there's a theme throughout the Bible of carrying God's name. And in fact, the scripture in the Ten Commandments actually says, "Don't carry the name of the Lord in vain."
Mm,
Right. And so to carry his name, we were designed in Genesis 1:27, it says that we were made in the image of God. Okay. And the word in Hebrew is salem, which was used often for idols. So when they would talk about the idols of the Canaanites, that's was salem. And so what's happening here is God crafted us as idols to reflect his image to the world, and we are meant to carry the name of God so that when people see us, we are not misrepresenting the name of God. We are shining the light of God to the world so that
mm,
they can see who he is. And when
yeah,
we don't shine the light of God to the world, they see darkness instead, right? They don't see the light of God coming through us, and then we misrepresent him. And so, yeah, man, it is so important, right? That's why this porn is so destructive, because of the shame and the lies that we tell ourselves, the
right.
lies that we tell our spouse to cover up the crime of our shame, is causing that image of God to be marred, so that when your wife saw you, she didn't see the reflection of Jesus reflected back at her, and
Mm,
she wanted to leave, you know?
yeah,
She wanted to leave the marriage. And so, yeah, man, absolutely. That was so well said, brother. So well said.
thank you. And I think too, something to add as well, right? Where in the Bible it talks about the man being like the head, and also just the ravenous wolf being out there, waiting to devour. I look
Mhm.
back at it, I'm like, I had the responsibility to be the head, but I left the door open for the enemy. I let the
Mhm.
wolf come in and just ravage my home.
Yeah, and also
Yeah,
what did Jesus say about leadership, right? Any of you who want to be a leader among you must be the slave. So if you want to be if you want to be a leader in your home, the best thing you can do is serve your wife and love her and reflect the image of Christ to her. That's the best thing you can do. That's what she's looking for anyway. That's what she wants. That's what makes her feel secure and safe and loved, is to be served like Christ serves the church. He died.
and I think in a way, right, like, you can see the design of God in that, right, to where, I'm feeling that in the relationship I'm in now, to where when we have God in the center, the amount of respect that I receive, because I'm serving her, I'm serving the Lord, and then she's serving the Lord and serving me in the relationship we're in now, like, hopefully, like, leading that way towards marriage. But the f the energy you get from that is just so cool. It's the best, man. Like, it's I think that's, like, God just made it so perfect.
Yeah.
Uh, when we follow through with how he's like, "Hey, A, B, and C, like, this is the way."
This is the way.
Sometimes we're like, "Okay, well, let's do Z." And he's like, "Okay, well, if you do Z, like, you're gonna have to it's gonna make things messy, right?"
Yeah.
And I went through the whole alphabet, and I'm just happy to be back at, like, A, B, C.
Yeah.
Like, I'm grateful for it. I'm like, "Yes," like, I will, and I think it takes that in life.
Mhm.
Uh,
Oh,
all of
yeah.
us different times in life too, different ages, different experiences, but I think finally it kinda struck me in the head where I was like, "Okay, like, follow," and that doesn't mean I'm gonna be perfect,
Yep.
but it's every day I'm thinking about it, and getting in the word, praying, all that stuff. It's really brought such a benefit into my daily life, and, also I think just being, uh, what's the word for it? I think there's a state of bliss involved, I
Mhm.
think, when you
Mm.
have that surrender, to where you just, I think it's what, Paul wrote, right? Not to be anxious, and that can be really hard to do. Can be really hard to do that, but he's like, "Hey, like, don't be anxious, man."
Right,
And you
or
can
the
try.
peace that surpasses all understanding.
Yeah,
He talks about that as well, yeah. Bliss.
right, and I think when and I mean, gosh, if you wanted to read something that really talks about sexual immorality, or just, Paul goes so into it with Romans, right? Like, such a great, again, this stuff, like the verses and everything better than me, But I always go there. Like I love reading Romans.
Yeah.
He gets into it, you know.
First Corinthians as well.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and just how you know we keep pulling, or we keep stepping into this sin. You know, we don't want to, but we keep doing it. That kind of thing, like
Right.
that, to me, when I would like live through that life with porn, the word anxiety just really rings in my head. And
Yeah.
maybe that's a little bit before that walk with Christ really hit, was
Yeah.
just having like that anxiety, constant anxiety, especially in the marriage. It's just every day I felt anxious.
Yeah.
Like every day I felt like if I stepped on like a crack wrong, like the day would just go to crap.
Yeah.
And I think now it's just having like that faith in God, be like, hey, I trust you. That's allowed me, I think, to be more susceptible to, or clear-minded, I think, to pick up on like signs, or just to see God in people, see God in things. I
Yeah.
mean, heck, there was this huge thunderstorm over the weekend, like
Mm.
craziest thunderstorm I've ever been in at this place I'm staying at out on the water. Walked out to take my dogs out. No kidding you. I walk out, there's a bush, there's a cross in the bush. I'm not even joking. Like there's a I can go grab it right now and show you if you want. Like
Yeah.
let
If
me
you
show
want.
you. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Let's see this cross. Yeah. No, that's amazing. No, yeah. I mean, I agree with you, man. You know, God, wow. Yeah.
So
It's crazy.
but this right here, you guys can see this cross.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can show you guys where I'm staying at, if that's okay.
Yeah. Go for it.
Let's see if this will work. Move my mic over. Okay, so this is where I'm staying right now. You see that?
Yeah.
So, like right over there by that orange kayak,
Yeah.
that's where I found the cross right after this biblical thunderstorm.
That's incredible.
And I don't know. Like, gosh, I don't know. Like, who put it there? Who knows? Someone had to.
Well,
Not
you
saying it
can
was
look at it like
or
it
maybe.
somehow the Lord engineered for this cross to be in your path. He works out the good for those who love him. So things
Yeah,
are
and it's one of those moments, right, to where I was like, well, this is a sign of something.
yeah.
And even those things, right? I think when you get closer with God and you're in that state of prayer, praying for others, you just start to see things, or things start happening. And
Mhm.
it's not like you're going to win $1 million or whatever, but they're
Yeah.
like really good things.
Yeah.
Like winning $1 million, like that'd be great. But like finding that cross out there for me, I was
That's
like, I'm never
incredible.
going to forget that moment.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah. No, I
And
agree.
those,
I think that he's active in our life and he shows us things like that throughout our life. If we're listening and open to hearing what he has to say, then yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, so we're getting close on time, man. So I had
yeah.
one more question for you. So what would you say to the man or woman listening tonight who feels trapped and believe they're never going to be free? What encouragement can you give them?
Gosh, God's love is the most powerful thing in the world, in the universe, right? And I think, um, sometimes it does take those hard moments to fully realize it. And I've been there. I know you've been there too. But if you're in the thick of it right now, one of the best things that you could do really is talk to someone that you trust. And I know for me, it was finding someone a little bit ahead of me. That for me, it was finding somebody that was a Christian counselor. That was huge. That really opened the door for me. But seeking some kind of help, I'd say like within the church, a friend, family member, someone that you can trust. And I think you've told me this before when we first talked, but someone, I think, if you're listening to this, like somebody that you see that reflection of God in, talk to them, because they're going to reflect God back into your life where you might not see it. You might not see God, you might not feel God. I've been there, right? Where you're just like, there's like, he's not out there. He doesn't care. Well, if you have someone in your life that reflects God and that, they're going to reflect God into your life. And that's going to be a light for you to hold on to. So I think that's what I would say, is that you're never alone. You're never alone with God in your life, but also with God and other people. And just to not, there's going to be a voice in your head that's going to say, if I tell somebody like they're going to leave, I told myself that so many times. And there's barely been anybody, I don't think there's really been anyone in my life that I just told and they're like, okay, I'm out of here. Right. And then it's only strengthened the relationships that I do have. And if someone says, hey, I'm not going to talk, like, okay, well, that person, might not be the best person to have, in your life as somebody, if you're in that state where you're really struggling, right? You need that support. So yeah, I think find that person in your life that reflects God. And I think start going to church and just surrender. Don't fight it. I think that's a thing too, is I used to really fight these feelings. And that's what porn was. It was suppressing. I'd fight the feeling by just suppressing or numbing it. But when you can really just sit in it, experience it, and then trust in God, He's going to get you through it. And then you're on the other side. You're like, wow, I made it. I made it through that. Then you just do it again and again and again and again, right? And that's when I think the world opens up to you. And it starts to get a lot bigger. So that's what I'd have to say.
Awesome, man. I love it. That's beautiful and so true. I couldn't agree with you more. So, hey, man, will you pray us out and just pray for anyone who might be listening, and for them to find exactly what you just said, somebody in their life, and to have the Lord really impact them. So, please pray us.
All right, cool. And I think there was one thing I was going to pull up really quick.
Oh yeah,
so
sure.
This actually the Serenity Prayer.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is a great prayer. I think it's said a lot in AA. I don't know if it's the full version is set there, but I'm going to read that out first, and then I'll add a little bit to that. So this is the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. And I'll just add to that before ending, just if you're there, listening, you're struggling, may God grant you serenity, grant you peace. Because I know it's tough and it's just so noisy and loud, and sometimes you just want to give up, but there's peace out there. It's worth fighting for. And I think the fighting is not alone. You have God by your side. So Lord, grant serenity over anyone listening, just that moment of peace, that moment of hope, that moment of light that they can hang on to, and let it be a seed that is watered over the next few days, months, years, so that something beautiful is there, a garden that's bountiful and full of love and life and happiness, courage, fulfillment, empowerment, and like we said, that serenity. So Lord, grant us serenity. Amen.
Amen. Well, Mac, thank you so much for coming on my channel, man. Please, everybody, check out Mac's channel over on Substack. He's the Porn-Free Millennial. He's got great work. He's got a great heart, as you heard tonight. And so, he could be one of these mentors that we're talking about that could help you. Reach out to him. If you want, reach out to me, reach out to somebody and get help. Freedom is possible, as we learned in Mac's story tonight. So thanks, Mac. It was awesome. I'll see you again soon. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. God bless.
God bless.